Hey Codeland, this is Brian, and hey Codeland, I'm Brian. Okay, so you remember back in 2018? That was a great year. Not only was that a great year where we walked around and without mask on and went to large venues for concerts, it also gave us Baychella, which if you aren't sure of Baychella, just definitely Google it. You're probably sitting in front of a computer with multiple tabs open. No shame. But it's also the same year that gave us Weird Flex, but okay, which basically took over my Twitter feed for at least a couple weeks. And which, if you've never used this term, feel free to use it. I'm a dad myself, so I get exceptions to be able to say stuff that's out of date. So speaking about flexing, I'm Brian Douglas. I am a developer advocate at GitHub. And my role at GitHub is really just to emphasize developers and make sure that they're heard in front of the product team. But I'm not just a developer advocate. I'm actually a Beyonce advocate, self-proclaimed. I also realize that I'm the only one that calls myself that. I work at a company called GitHub, which I did mention, but now you can see the logo here. GitHub is the home for developers to collaborate, but not just at work. GitHub is a place for developers to collaborate even in open source on projects between each other, which is great. It's like community. So I just want to take just a moment just to mention my entry into open source. My introduction to open source is actually when I pinged a maintainer of a project asking questions on how to actually leverage it while they were traveling and touring Thailand watching K-pop concerts, this is literally a screenshot from that conversation. But there are many, many more times that actually I was able to be involved because open source is valuable to my career. And I honestly think open source can be very valuable to your career. So, and just to sort of really hammer that point, I'm just going to allow me to flex one more time and talk about my LinkedIn profile, specifically the messages. Now, I get a lot of messages like this asking for senior, elite JavaScript ninjas and stuff like that, which, I appreciate it and it makes me feel very great, but I don't really have much I can do with these companies. I don't want to leave the job I have right now. So I went to my extremely popular Twitter account, which you should definitely follow, and proposed this question of what is there a tool that we could use to forward these messages to people who are actually looking for jobs? And everybody was had a lot of comments for me, but no one actually really gave me an answer. But I have the answer, which is MySpace. Some of you might not even know what MySpace is. MySpace is kind of like Facebook, but with way more eyeshadow. And the cool thing about MySpace is that you had this list of top friends that you could have on the side. I missed this because I can just have anybody who comes to my profile just be like, these are the people you should follow. So I built that same thing on GitHub. And this is what it looks like. And the way I built this was using a GitHub action, which looks like this. But you can also go to lab.github.com and check out the actions course where you can get started with a simple hello world. In addition to that, I created a README for my repo. So if you create any repos on GitHub now that has your name as the repo name, it will give this extra little feature to have that promoted on your profile. If you want to see what other people are doing with their profiles, definitely check out this dev post. In the threads, there's a lot of other people who've commented with their versions of the README. So definitely check it out. Also, hit me up. I'll be in the GitHub booth table room. I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but I'll be in one of those GitHub things. Find me there, and I would love to see what you do with your profile. I also want to mention real quickly, I chat with open source maintainers on a weekly basis. We call it Open Source Friday. It's going to be live on twitch.tv/GitHub. Please come along. This is me and Tim here chatting about Next.js and actually talking about how to contribute to the project live on air. So if you're interested in that, give us a follow there. And again, find me at the GitHub booth thing. That's it.
Hey Codeland, this is Jess, one of the co-founders of Dev, and now a co-host of a podcast called Dev Discuss. Each week, I sit down with my co-host and fellow co-founder, Ben, to address the burning topics that impact our lives as developers. We cover questions like, what is the true benefit of remote work? What is neurodiversity, and why should it matter to developers? And how do hobbies improve my life and career? We get to chat with incredible guests from all walks of life for each episode, on topics that impact engineers across all levels. This podcast is your place for burning tech questions, answers, and genuine conversations. We also end each episode with commentary from the everyday developers who call Dev home. Thanks for tuning in, and please rate and subscribe to Dev Discuss from wherever you get your podcasts.